10, 11 minutes late, but here we are. We're in there. My hair always looks crazier on YouTube than it does on Instagram. It looks like somewhat normal here. Over here, it looks like half of my hair is just gone. But anyway, yeah, so we're doing our live sprint. We're not gonna stay on for the whole night tonight because there is another event as well. Like I said, we've been consistently putting in that work, getting that mind mapping done, and all that stuff every day, getting our word goals hit, and all of those things, getting the advice, getting all the things that are needed on our writing projects right now. So that point now we're just going to go ahead and just kind of talk about some things about writing in general so that we can kind of get a little bit more motivation. It is the 5th day of the month. That means if you have been doing the 3,000 words a day, your story should have 15,000 words. Now that sounds like a lot, and it also sounds very unrealistic for someone who may be newer at writing, which is why we have been also doing for the first 5 days consistently mind mapping. So I think that it's really important for you to mind map so you can have an idea of your story, idea of what you want to do for your story, an idea of kind of like a bunch of stuff, honestly, not even just what you want to do for your story or the story and as a whole, idea of what you think would be a good twist. What's a good philosophy for your story? What's a good mentality for your main character? And what's a good mentality for your antagonist? Which honestly, for me, for the work in progress I'm doing right now, my antagonist's mentality is more fun than my protagonist's mentality. Hear me out though. Reason why is because the whole first half of the story, up until this exact midpoint, 30,000 words in, the whole first half of the story has set up the story as the main character is right, everyone else is wrong. Not even everyone else is wrong, but the main character is right. Who cares what else anyone else thinks? That's pretty much what we've set up the whole first part of the story to be. So it's really nice. It's really nice because that way now I've set up this thing of main character is in the right, everyone else is wrong. Now it's like, okay, the antagonist, you're able to kind of completely shift like perspectives. Like you're saying that these people are bad. What are you doing? And it completely shifts the narrative to where it's like, okay, now you kind of have to look at it from both sides because like one side clearly is not the only side, and that one side is clearly not right based off of what this one person is saying. And it's really cool because the antagonist and the protagonist are actually really, really similar. And I think that's really cool to have a comparison of how people who could have been the same, how their lifestyles could have changed them into being different, how their circumstances would have changed them into being different, a lot of stuff like that. So I do think that has been a very fun portion of this. That's pretty much where I am right now within these first few days of this challenge. I did also that 30,000 wasn't all from this month. A lot of it was from kind of like the end of last month when I kind of got the idea for us to start fast drafting like this. But I really wanted to share the fast drafting process with each other because with that fast drafting, like so many people want to write a story. So many people want to be an author, want to be a writer, and they kind of just like every day they let it pass by. Every single day, today I didn't write. Okay, this next day I wanted to write this story or I wanted to write this concept. Or I've been feeling like if I'm educated enough to write a book in this area, but I haven't. And every day that passes by, they continuously do not put any work towards it at all. And that's not to, I don't say that to like put anyone down or anything like that. Life happens. I think that life is very complicated. And a lot of people typically have a lot of stuff going on in their lives. But with that being said, this challenge is partially so people can look and see, oh, it's been 5 days and I didn't write yet. Oh, this is 5 days. This is where I could have been. Oh, this is 5 days. Where would I be right now if I put in at least 100 words a day? Where would I be right now if I put in any effort at all? And that's really the mentality that I wanna kind of present. Like, guys, like let's put in some effort towards this because even if it's 250 words you do a day, in a year you'll have your novel done, right? If it's 3,000 words you do a day, in a month you'll have your novel done, right? Really less than a month you'll have your novel done. It'll be 20 days. If you do 1,000 words a day, which is really more reasonable, I think, for a lot of people, depending on the type of story you're doing, I think 1,000 words a day is a really reasonable area. If you do that in 2 months, your story is done, or in 2 months you could have written enough content to have your story done. And so we have 6 months left in this year. It's currently the beginning of July. We've got 6 months left in the year. What are you going to do with this remaining 6 months that you have in the year? That's what I really want to present to you guys. What are we going to do with this last 6 months in a year? You've been wanting to write a book for years. All right. This has been something that you've been considering. And if not, even if it's a passion you're just recently starting, that's still commendable. You want to write, you want to be a writer. So let's do it. Like, this is an encouraging type thing. We're all going to sit here and put the grit in together, and we're not going to get discouraged by anything. We're going to go with the consistency, even if we only get 50 words in a day, right? I say 3,000 words a day. That would be ideal. But you know what? Taking any step forward is better than not taking any steps forward and wanting to get to the promised land, right? You have to take a step towards your destination. And sometimes you have to walk through the mud and you have to walk through a valley to get to the point that you want to be. So I do encourage you guys, if you have ever wanted to write a book, let's get into it. We have this live stream going on. It's every night at 8. There's even other commitments that have popped up today for me, but I really do want to still lock in with you guys. And I still want to at least be able to provide encouragement, because that's what this is really about. It's about motivating you guys that your writing does matter and that your writing can be very influential in this field, right? So that's kind of like the first thing I wanted to talk about. The next thing I wanted to talk about is how you can be secure in the writing that you're writing and the things that you're writing, right? So just like what I just said, this is a pretty big industry. We're not gonna pretend like if it's not. This is a pretty big industry. You've got, I don't even want to put a number on it. You've got so many words, not words, but books and novels and stories and content that's being created, especially stories. You have so much that's being created commercially and so much that's being put out into the world right now that a lot of times we tend to think, maybe I'm a part of the 99. Right. A lot of times we tend to think, maybe I'm a part of the group of people who cannot get published because I am not a big name author. I'm not this, that, or the third. Maybe this cannot be a successful area for me. And I want to let you know the difference between the 99 and the 1, the difference between the 99% and the 1% is commitment and persistence, right? Because if I write one book and I go to query that book and I go to try to find a literary agent, or I go to self-publish it, or whatever avenue that I've researched and decided to go forth and do. If I've already done the research and I've created this first book and I go to query it and it flops, no one cares about it. It was absolute trash. How you look and you're like, that's a failure. No, it's not, because I'm not done yet. That's the mentality I want us to have. I'm not done until I succeed. So if that first book absolutely trash, didn't do what I needed it to do, man, I'm going to revise it. I'm going to rewrite the book. If I'm in love with that story, I'm going to rewrite the book from the beginning. I did that 3 times with my debut novel, and I'm now actually to a point where I absolutely adore every page of that novel, and I'm currently querying it with high expectations. So have a high expectancy on your work, right? So if I do that first book, the first book is like, okay, that it? Is that not it? Okay. I'm not so attached to that, because I know that I can do more. I know that I can do better. So just like with this word sprint, this fast drafting challenge we're doing now, that's my point. Like, by the end of this month, we're gonna have another novel. Okay. Let's say that one doesn't work. I do another one. Let's say that one doesn't work. I do another one. What's that? At the pace that we're going for this fast drafting challenge, 3 months to have 3 novels. That's crazy. 3 months to have 3 novels. Now you're revising them. You're going over. You're gonna strike gold. You're gonna strike gold because of your consistency. So remaining consistent and persistent is so important. If someone's telling you, no, the Bible says that if you ask, if you knock, the door will be open to you. If you ask, you will receive. If you seek, you will find. So if we stop seeking because the first place that we looked, nothing showed up, that you're not really doing much. But if you sit there and you continue seeking and you continue looking for something, and you continue thriving for something, it's going to work. I can assure you that it's going to work. And that's what this whole thing is about, is us remaining dedicated, committed, and inspired, and staying motivated to do this, right? And even when you're not motivated, still remaining faithful to be able to still do what needs to be done, and that is writing. Because if it's something that you know you need to be doing and you don't do it, then that's a problem. Okay, that's a big problem. You don't want to waste your God-given talent. You don't want to waste the talent that you've strived for, that you've worked for. People look at talent as if it's something that's just gifted. While it is gifted, it's also something that while it is a gift, it's also something that you have to cultivate because you have to be a good steward of it. It's also something that you have to practice. So what I'm encouraging you and what I'm urging you to do is to join us every night at 8 p.m. where we're going to be doing these word sprints so that we can get that practice in, so that we can build a community. You guys are the building blocks of this community, right? And through my persistence, we're gonna have a community. That's something that you can get behind me knowing, because I'm gonna be on here every night. I'm gonna be consistent with you guys, right? So we can build this community, and we're gonna actually come together, and we're gonna do an absolutely amazing job. Like I said, I know too many people who want to write or who have stories to tell that are phenomenal, but will not tell them because they're putting limitations on themselves, and because they're not making the time to do it. They're not trying because they think that it's a wall that's too big to scale, right? The wall is not too big to scale. I can tell you that, right? Because even when things look very difficult, and even when things that you're writing is you get writer's block. Writer's block is simply a mentality, right? Writer's block is an excuse. If I'm committing every day to write a certain amount, or I'm committing every day to write at a certain time, I'm going to write at that specific time every day. And the reason why is because of persistence and consistency. But when I stop and I allow myself to take breaks, and I allow myself to go days without writing, and I allow myself to take these breaks that I did not plan for, I'm getting out of that mentality. I'm no longer thinking of that story anymore. Now it's going to be so. That's where the difficulty comes in. That's when writer's block settles in, when you do not put the effort to keep something remaining consistent. Excuse me. When you're not keeping something to remain consistent, that's when that difficulty comes in. So let's say I didn't do that, right? Let's say every day I'm working on that 3,000 words. When I tell you that you will get so encouraged by what you have done, and yet still be looking at what's in front of you and then get discouraged. I don't want you guys to do that. And that's what the purpose of us being here is. Because if today I write 3,000 words, tomorrow I write 3,000 words, the day after that I write 3,000 words, that's 9,000 words. That means once you finally hit that threshold of having 10,000 words done, some people have never written that much in their life, right? And now you're like, oh my goodness, I can do this. I've never gotten this far before. It's uncharted territory. Am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? That's what we're here for, to be able to answer those questions and to be able to continue to give you boldness, because your first draft doesn't have to be perfect. Your first draft is likely not going to be perfect. It's likely going to be really messy, especially if it's the first book that you're writing. Really, any book that you're writing, is the first draft is probably going to be really bad, but with at least having people to critique you, it definitely helps. And that's what the community that we are, that's kind of what the vision of the community is. We can build a community of people who can critique each other's work. We can build a community of people who can learn from each other. We can build a community of people who are able to share ideas and get inspired by each other, that we can say, okay, that idea, that's really good. I'm gonna one up it. I'm gonna figure out something that I can do that's gonna make me as proud of my idea as I am of this other person's idea. And it's gonna be straight positivity and straight vibes. Now, tonight's live was a lot shorter than our normal lives, right? So on YouTube, we've only been on for 12 minutes because we had a little bit of a hard time on YouTube, right? But I did really just want to come on here and continue to motivate you guys and encourage you guys. Tomorrow we're going to be right back again at 8 p.m. and I expect to hear great things. Tonight is going to be almost like a homework night, right? So go back and get your stuff together. Go write as much as you can, whether it be actually starting on your story or mind mapping. Honestly, at this point, we've had 5 days to mind map, so I'm expecting some content to be written, even if it's one page, even if it's the first page, even if it's content saying, what would my main character do in this situation, or just throwing your main character in a situation and having them figure out how to get out of it, or seeing how they interact with their situation or interact with certain types of people. That can be a really cool thing to do, because then you can integrate it into your story later on if you see that it fits. So definitely start considering your story, your story structure. Tomorrow we're going to start getting into actual word sprints. So that means we won't be talking about mind mapping as much anymore, unless there are questions about mind mapping. So for now, that's pretty much it. So I want you guys to finish up mind mapping, finish up outlining tonight. In order to outline, you basically just take the stuff that you did for your mind mapping and you make it into one timeline. You make it as this happens, this connects to this, which happens then, that type of thing. And then we'll be moving from then on. And it's gonna be a really good time, like I said. So yeah, so hope you guys are encouraged with that. Do you guys have any questions? I got like this small piece of gum, this super small piece of gum in my mouth, and I forgot I had it in my mouth this whole time because it's super small. Nonetheless, okay. All right. Well, I will assume that you guys don't have any questions. Without further ado, if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is King of Fiction. We're going to be on there every night. We're going to be on Instagram every night as well. But the YouTube account is honestly getting more content because we're going to be doing more shorts on YouTube and more content as long form videos. A lot of these lives, if there are parts that you missed from Instagram, we're going to be condensing them into edited clips for YouTube so that we can kind of reach more people to build out this community because we're working together on this. If you haven't already followed the Instagram, you can also follow over there. I'm going to be doing drops of my actual content, the novel that's already completed, and some stuff from my work in progress over there, like small paragraphs and stuff like that. If you guys want some little sneak peeks of that, just a little incentive if you're on YouTube to go over to Instagram, if you're on Instagram to go over to YouTube. But yeah, y'all have a great rest of y'all night and have a good time writing. I'll see y'all later.